Schlossman, Councilperson Morrow, Councilperson Malcolm, Councilperson Land, City Administrator Steve Beck here. Both our city attorneys had conflicts tonight. The mayor's here and City Clerk Sandra Dalton. Sandra Dalton's here. Yeah, Sandra Dalton class.
Change my name to protect me.
I'd like to remind all in attendance, including the council and staff, to please shut off your cell phones or put them on mute mode. That being said, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that being said, agenda item number 4, approval of the consent agenda, council minutes of May 5th, 2022, and bills received. Is there any discussion on that? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, council minutes of May 5th, and bills received.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5. Resident comments. Any resident comments?
No.
I have to do a public hearing, so you're second on the list here. Now opening a public hearing on municipal infractions of Chapter 56 of the Belle Plaine City Code that deals with delinquent dog and cat licenses that are past due. If there's no one here to appeal, I think that list is now forward. Who comes off of that? Yeah, you can take Perk off of that. There's no one here to appeal why they're on this list. There's no one on the council to appeal for them. Then we need a motion to turn over these delinquent dog and cat licenses to the Belle Plaine Police Department for process. Or is there discussion?
Short list.
That's as short as we've had.
Since I've been here,
I'll make a motion to turn it over to the Belle Plaine Police Department, the dog and cat delinquent licenses.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll remind the chief that we gotta go check.
Door knock,
Yeah, door knock before we send it to Cole. Okay, Mindy, Belle Plaine Community Development, you can do it from there, you can do it from
I
here.
can sit down, that'd be wonderful. Go ahead and send that out to businesses and personal and businesses. So that'll probably be happening within the next week or so. We're in the process of stuffing envelopes now. 3rd of July, that has, it's been going good. We have a lot of things we're working on for that. We have a lot of stuff going on. I'm working on marketing. We actually had a car show postcard that we had made. I apologize. I should have probably brought one of those. Mayor, I think you took one. Do you have that with you? I you pass it around? If you don't, that's not
No,
a big
it's
deal.
in my notebook,
Um,
my other. notebook.
but, we went ahead and have that done. That just kind of shows basic events that our idea is we're gonna take them to 4 local car shows around the area, and we're gonna pass them out so we can get a good turnout here at our car show. We have inflatables, that kind of stuff going on, dance. In addition, we're gonna have a bag tournament, I believe, as well. So we have a lot of stuff going on for the 3rd. Working on finishing up the marketing and sponsorships and that kind of stuff right now. And then the marketing can be finished for the flyers. Trying to think. We're working on, we are working on getting the hanging baskets and all of that kind of stuff. They will be, thank you to Judy, because you did do that for us this year. That is gonna be next, the 26th, right?
25th,
25th.
weather permitting,
Yes.
next Wednesday.
Yep, next Wednesday. So we got a group of people that are gonna come and hang them baskets, and we have that all lined up. Working on getting flags as well, put up 2 down Main Street. We're still working on biocells, I think. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff we're working on and doing. Yep. And I think that's it. Off the cuff, I didn't write anything down, so. Any questions for me?
No, I was impressed how well organized you guys got things.
Well, thank you. I'm really impressed with the board we have in place. We all work really good together. I think we all bounce ideas off each other, communicate really well, and I think that's important for us as an organization. And I think it helps us with getting things done that we want to get done and be successful at it. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So hopefully we're getting there. I feel we are, so. We're also addressing the sound park. There's been some vandalism, I guess you would say, on that. Washed that off. Thankfully, it was sidewalk chalk and it wasn't anything like paint or anything permanent. So we're just kind of, the police department is monitoring that a little bit, driving by, just making sure that, there's nothing on there and that kind of stuff. So, and then we're trying to, right now, work on a plan with like maintaining the grounds and the weeds and that kind of stuff. So we are working on that as well. So if you see it now, it's in rough shape, but hopefully in the next couple weeks and going on, we are working on it. So I'm just letting you know, if you go by there, we're working on that. So, but that's it. I think that's all. That's what I've been working on. So.
Any other questions? Yeah, July 4th will be here before.
That's all.
What's the name of the band you guys got?
It's the Last Call Party Band.
Okay.
Yep, they, actually it was recommended by a bar owner and, they just all kind of agreed to it, so, we just went with that, for this year, so. They're a local band, I think, somewhat. I think some people on the band, I think from my understanding, are local, or they were local at one time or something like that, so. I personally have never heard them, but I think they're good. People like them, so I thought, well,
Stand
they
on,
did
stand back.
Yeah.
Bob Stone.
Right.
So hopefully we'll have a good turnout and have Main Street full and have a lot of stuff going on.
No weather.
Hopefully the weather is good. We had been ran into that a couple years ago. Morgan put all that effort in. It was her first one, and I remember just feeling horrible for her because because of the weather, it didn't turn out right. It wasn't her fault. It was just the weather. Sometimes it just happens. So
Any other questions?
Glad to see your board's filled out.
I am too.
Is that what you normally run, is about 9 people?
We did run 6 or 7 at one time, but we decided to go 9. So yeah, now it is going to be 9 people, just because that way it's just enough people, I think, that can kind of get things done if we need to, and it's kind of spread out different things. we are still, I guess, about the director position. We are, now that we have our board filled, that's on our top list. You just have to work out some things. Main Street, Iowa actually has changed some rules. It was brought to our last meeting, so we have to dive more into that and see what that looks like and what it truly is gonna look like for a director's point if, what we decide there. We need one for 20 hours, we need one for 40 hours, what that's gonna look like too before we go ahead and start getting people or taking applications or whatever for people interested in that, so. So yeah, that's kind of our next thing to tackle and with everything else that we're tackling, just try to get that kind of filled too, now that we got our board filled, so.
Yeah, Iowa County, Benton County, Iowa County just offered the job, a halftime job to a lady from Williamsburg. In fact, they just offered the job today. They've been searching for a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So and originally they were hoping to hire somebody full-time and they could not find anyone. I'm shocked they ended up with a halftime person. But
Yeah. Good for them. That's the hard part, I think, is, with no benefits and getting someone for only 20 hours, it really has to be that right person that can fit that. So it makes it a little bit harder, So.
anything else, folks? Well, thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah.
I have to stick around and listen to this stuff.
You don't want to hear about chicken stuff.
Yeah, unless you're.
Well, actually, I have a casserole in the oven, so I'm glad we're running a little short because I don't want it to burn. I had them charge
Thank
taking
you
that
for
out.
coming.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Nice seeing you.
Discuss for possible passage, the second reading of ordinance number 58, an ordinance allowing for the raising of urban chickens in Belle Plaine. I guess before we discuss, you can look through this, hopefully we got everything corrected in it the way you want it. I think one of the things we need to discuss before we get into this is how are we going to enforce the code? In other words, who's going to do? Paperwork's coming into our office, but who's going out and do the inspection of the building and the site? Are we going to assign that to our public workers? I know the police are not going to do it. They're going to be short-handed anyway.
Does it have to be a city employee? Because we had an offer,
Yes, and I don't think that's a good idea.
and why is that?
I don't think it will be enforced correctly. I mean, there's a lot of hoops to jump through on this. There's a lot of hoops to jump through that the clerks I know will enforce, but I think we need somebody out there that will do the measuring and not just eyeball it as far as is, 10 feet from that line, and is it, all those, I don't have all those, I may have wrote it, but I don't have all those dimensions. Is that something we can turn over to our street guys to do?
I could run it past them on Friday. I don't think that anybody would turn it down. And I also don't anticipate we're going to have a great deal of
Well, I don't
applicants
think you're
either.
going to have more than 10 of these to do in the completion stage. We may have more than that first start coming into the office.
Yeah, maybe if we did have Public Works do it, we'd send 2 people down so they each have a different set of eyes. So somebody can write down, someone can observe.
Does that sound all right to the council?
Yeah, I think so.
That it's being done by the city of Belle Plaine, and the code will be enforced the way we want it enforced. All right, moving on to then your second reading. I didn't find anything in here, but I flipped through this quick because I had 18 tons of paperwork I was looking at this week.
Other than the changes, I think I got everything you guys rattled off at us last time. I did have a note down here that kind of after everything had been approved, it was mentioned that maybe somewhere in here it should be about sealing wood or painting it to prevent water penetration. Didn't know if that's something you guys still wanted added or didn't think it was that big a deal or.
That is 5806, number 6. I have it in it too from last meeting. About halfway down in 6 is all materials shall be uniform and so on. They will be well maintained. And I think the question is,
Something
do
made
we
of
want,
solid materials such as wood, metal, or plastic, do you want it added there and
Right.
sealed or painted to prevent?
Now, are we legal in adding that on the second read?
Jennifer said last time that they were.
All right, add that in.
Right after the plastic.
Yep. And I'll add and sealed or painted to prevent water penetration.
Any other?
yeah, I
concerns?
had something that came up, 5802, number 2F. Application contains the name and address of all adjoining property owners. We talked about how an alley is an adjoining property. What about properties that are kitty corner to the alley? So if I have chickens on my property, there's an alley, do I need to inform this property owner and this property owner? Is that also considered adjoining?
I don't think so. I think you only have to inform the ones that are adjoining your property.
Met by corners, not adjoining.
Okay. Thank you.
So on 5802, number 3, issues a permit if the permitting officer concludes. Who's the permitting officer?
Our clerks.
Okay.
And then when our public workers come back and report the structure's fine and met all these things, then that's going to give the permitting officers the okay to finish issuing.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Anything else? Is Station Belle Plain City Council off the air?
The camera shut off for some reason. We never lost audio.
Well, if there are no further discussion, no further questions. I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 58. Do I need to say as amended? As amended for the raising of urban chickens.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Last chance for discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. One to go. 9A, discuss for possible passage the first reading of ordinance 22-6, which would amend the code of ordinances of the city of Belle Plaine by amending the provisions pertaining to sewer service charges. Sewer rates would go from $11.20 per thousand to $11.84 per thousand. And this is what we discussed last meeting. And that's the raise that you thought was appropriate. Discussion. And again, because these are financial ones, I will make us go through all three readings. If there's no discussion, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 22-6, amending the code of ordinances pertaining to sewer service charges.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Last chance for discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, discuss for possible passage of the first reading of ordinance 22-7, which would amend the code of ordinances of the city of Belle Plaine by amending the provision pertaining to water rate charges. Water rates would go from $6.98 per thousand to $7.38 per thousand, and out-of-town rates would go from $8.92 per thousand to $9.43 per thousand. Discussion. Again, this was based on our discussion committee of the whole of the last meeting. Hearing no discussion, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 22-7, amending the code pertaining to water rate charges.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Last chance for discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 10, discuss for possible approval, resolution 220503, a resolution authorizing interfund loan transfer from stormwater fund to the airport fund. I can't guarantee it, but this could be the first time this resolution has ever been proposed to the city council of Belle Plaine. Sandy, do you want to tell them what we're doing?
Sure, so, a few meetings back, you guys approved, airport project. Based on sheer timing of this project, it is sending the airport fund negative. We're really not supposed to do that. Auditors don't like it. Not that we haven't done it before, but we're trying to do as many things right as we can. And one of the things that came up that's a possibility is you can do an interfund loan. So you can take loan money from one fund that has plenty to another fund that's short at the moment. You can choose to charge each other interest if you want, which I wouldn't recommend, but we could. And then you set a timetable for the payback. The airport has all the money covered. It's just not in. Can't get the federal money until the project starts. We don't have the money from the grant, the independent grant that we're getting yet either. That money won't be given until the project happens. But we have all the initial outlay stuff for design, the engineering, all that is done before the project ever starts, and we have to pay that right away. So it's causing a negative situation that this can resolve. Could we leave it negative? We could leave it negative. We'll get dinged for it by the auditor. Not the end of the world. We have been dinged for stuff like that before. But we talked about this is an opportunity to try it once, kind of walk through all the motions, figure out how it works. If it's something that we get figured out and it clears the auditor and they say we did it all right, it's good to know how to do it and to be able to do it. So we just thought we'd put it on paper, throw it by you guys, see how you felt about it. I think it's a waste of time. We won't worry about it. If you want to see how it works, we can try this one. Like I said, it's a pretty safe thing. All the money is committed to for the airport. It just timing.
So this is
Year
like
end
a-
is going to happen, and we're not.
This is like a 4-month loan.
Mhm.
And then we have to then do another resolution just to flip it back.
No, actually, you don't. It's written. The payback is
Okay.
written right in this
Right in there.
resolution. And actually, I gave us enough time that it just has to be paid back before the end of the next fiscal year. So we'll wait until we have the projects done, all the federal money's in, and then we'll flip the money back.
Accounting games.
It's just an accounting game. It's totally an
It's gonna
accounting
make
game.
our,
Totally an accounting game.
But I think it's best not to get dinged by the accountant. You don't,
yeah.
Unless-
We have enough
when-
situations.
the less
that we
you
can't
have-
control, yeah.
with something like that.
It just takes out one of those criticisms from the audit
Right.
that we had a negative balance. And we'll probably have one in the water department anyway, so we don't need another one in the airport. Any other questions? I didn't know this actually existed. Sandy brought it to my attention. Why not? I need a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2205-3, a resolution authorizing an interfund loan transfer from the stormwater fund to the airport fund.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, number 11, I did not get the contract. It's gonna be a 15% raise. If you want me to just wait till the next meeting to actually have the contract in my hand, we can do that. You can approve this and we can check the figures when it comes in. If it's not correct, then we will contact them. And all the things I was trying to get done over the last couple of days for this agenda, digging up the old contract is not something I did, so I'll just leave it in your hands. You want to approve this, or do you just want to wait till next meeting?
Can we add it to another item on the 25th? Or not?
Can we?
Yeah.
She's the one that just wrote the agenda for the 25th.
Oh.
It's in her.
I mean, if we wanted
Yes,
to
we
wait for the
can. We can.
contract.
Let's do it then. If it doesn't come, then we'll do it in the first June meeting. Good idea. That takes you to number 12, the treasurer's report, the budget report, and still no solar energy report. It's a reminder to Steve, we have got to do something about the solar energy report. It's got to be fixed. I think if you note in one of those reports, she's giving you a different setup to save paper. Yeah. Well, we're just gonna cut this thing in
I have a
half.
question on the business incentive grant, disbursement, 264781. What was that? It's been a while.
That was grand
Okay. Thank you.
interior grant.
Any other questions on those reports?
Good.
See people still.
Hey, Steve, the trees that got planted, are those guaranteed?
What's going on?
I just think about the one that's to the north on my property. I don't see it doing anything.
Fine.
I think that's the Neutral. The Kentucky Coffee is alive, but the other one, I thought it was alive because it looked like it was letting out nothing's found. And it should be by now.
Just in case. Did you water it properly?
It probably didn't get watered as much, but it did get watered.
Mine are going crazy. I'm happy.
He's gonna get a star for his house. All right, I'm gonna move on to number 13, which shouldn't take long. Did you get
Yeah.
the big packet again? The only reason I gave you the big packet is so you've got all the bids from Iowa Civil Contracting. Discuss for possible approval by the Belle Plaine City Council, a revised approval of Belle Plaine Municipal Airport Rehabilitation Runway 1836 Taxiway and Apron Pavements Project Contract with Iowa Civil Contracting, Inc. of Victor, Iowa for the total amount of $402,644 for the base bid, the alternative bid A, the alternative bid B, and the alternative bid C. Noting to the public out there, this won't cost the people of Belle Plaine a dime. I hate to use the word free, but Federal Aviation Administration will pay for 90% of it, and the Mansfield Trust will pay for the other 10%. We did not have the money to approve the 3 alternate bids on this, and now they already, talking with Bruce, they had their meeting, and the Mansfield Trust was willing to pay for all 3 alternate contracts too. So they voted it through and sent it here and wanted it approved tonight by us so that you'll get the base bid for $273,000, the alternate A for $28,100, alternate B for $14,300, and alternate C for $85,800. Does not change on all of those. Iowa Civil Contracting, Inc. was the low bid. So that's why we're still dealing with it. But I wanted to make sure you had all the paperwork, even though I'm sure you didn't want to really see how many trees died again filling this out. Also, just in case the Federal Aviation Administration wants to check on this. So that's why that was added and why I changed the agenda and updated it on the 16th after it had been published on Friday the 13th. And I knew when I published it on early Friday the 13th that something bad would have to happen to it. I just knew it. I barely got home and Bruce was calling me about wanting to change it. 5:10 on Friday.
That was good news.
Well, yes, very positive news. We get everything done down there we want to get done and get it all paid for. And get it all paid for is always the best. So any questions? Anything, Sandy, you want to add?
No, Bruce was really excited that they could all get done this year. This season, so.
Well, if there are no
Do they
questions.
have a estimated, like, start times?
Once it's August,
Yeah, probably now, because if they didn't get started in May, they're gonna have to wait the spraying season to start. We can't shut the runway down when our spray companies are spraying, and we'll have at least one down there, if not more. Anything else? Need a motion then?
A motion for approval by the Belle Plaine City Council, a revised approval of the Belle Plaine Municipal Airport Rehabilitate Runway for the amount of $402,006 $644 for the base bid, alternate bid A, bid B, and bid C.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries 5-0. You have laid before you the police report. So the public says they're not doing anything about nuisances in Belle Plaine, and you look and see there were 30 abatement orders issued in April, and there've been 30 more issued in May, and 28 of them were grass. Yeah, they are. As I tried to explain to a resident who complained to me the other night, I said, if a person knows how to do things right, they can stall off a nuisance complaint on mowing grass for about 23 days. I mean, we can't just issue a complaint and then roll the mowers in there 2 days later. It doesn't work that way. And if they ask for an appeal, it makes it a little different, but I mean, they are doing it. I mean, besides the other normal things. And then you guys can read the last two items on that report. Nothing there makes me happy. But it seems to be the life of a small town police department. This will make it more difficult to schedule 24/7 coverage when we lose an officer. It just does, especially when we got one in the academy. Any questions on the police report or anything you want us to go back?
Well, it's just disappointing to see that we lose another one. And we were told when we raise our pay that that would keep them. Number 2 in less than a year. 3. Oh yeah, Schmidt. That's right. 3.
I agree. He and I spent an hour this afternoon discussing that issue. And one of the things that I said for certain, he has to bring Houston in for a exit evaluation.
He's a good officer too.
Oh, totally agree.
They have to take the Silverado to Carl Chevrolet. The Belle Plaine Motors can't look at that.
We bought it there. Is it still under warranty?
That is unknown to me.
Find out if it's still under warranty, because if it's not under warranty, then why not take it local?
But we bought it through Greider's.
Bought it through Carl Chevrolet, with
Through
Ryder
Raiders.
being the delivery point.
Oh,
That
okay.
was the way you could get and that,
So
I was concerned about that from day one.
Uh-huh.
But if it's not gonna be a warranty thing, then why not just have it fixed here? Cause it's gonna be, I'll be truthful, it's gonna be more costly to
3
do it
years.
at Carl Chevrolet than here.
It's been 3 years.
It couldn't have been because it was happening when I was on the council, and I haven't been 3 years.
So is it still under warranty?
It'll have some warranty to it.
But another Chevy dealership can't provide the warranty
Yes,
service?
they can. If they're an actual Chevy dealer, yeah,
We
they
did that
can.
through-
You aren't gonna get full, but you'll get some. I mean, they amortize a battery, so you won't get full replacement, but you'll get something.
Check that before we drive it all the way to Des Moines.
I mean, when I worked at Tice, we would have people come in from other dealerships, and we would do warranty work for them.
Well, yeah,
It doesn't matter where you bought it, you can take it in for any for warranty.
Yeah,
Just
discuss that.
batteries you never get full.
Yeah.
Steve, discuss
Probably.
that with him before
Right,
we
for example, which gets off.
Just trying to save some road time.
Well, that also means you got one less officer to deal with on duty. I agree. I questioned that the second I read it. Any other questions on that?
So how many are we short then?
Officers? We're down to 3 guys because one's in the academy, right?
But we haven't filled Schmidt's spot, right? Or we have?
Yeah, we
We
did.
did.
Filled
Okay.
that off the reserve right away.
Yeah,
Alright.
we're full staffed except for we have one at the academy.
Yeah.
So that has this person down and then that'll be.
Yeah.
the person.
So we have one opening
We have
then.
one opening.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have one opening, but only 3 guys who
Yeah.
can work shifts
Mhm.
till August.
Full-time.
Full-time.
Well, maybe higher pay that we did, we'll steal one from somewhere then.
There you
We interviewed.
go.
Oh, boy.
Anything else on the police report? Go to agenda item 15, city administrator's report, 9th Avenue project.
All right. At our last training session, we kind of studied up for the project that we were going to do on 9th Avenue because after the rainstorm, Nick and Jay went out and started popping manholes around to see if we had any irregular flow in the sanitary sewers or storm sewers. And because they're checking for infiltration of groundwater or sump pumps or something like that. So they were kind of working their way around town. They were on 9th Avenue between 16th and 18th Street and discovered a manhole that was really rushing a lot of water. So they called me up right away and we took a chlorine sample and it had chlorine in it. So the water, it was an underground water main break. It never surfaced. It just went straight over to someone's service line or sanitary line. So we don't have any idea how long it was going on really. But I called Iowa Rural Water Association and they came out with a leak detector and found within 3 feet where the leak was. It happened to be right underneath a storm sewer as well. So there was a storm sewer over top. That was the first dig we've done. And there's a learning curve, but we got it done successfully. And there was someone's service line that got nicked. So they ended up getting their service line replaced. And we're working out a deal with them because that's something that our guys need to have practice with as well. As far as our training, after that was found, we went around and with the guys, I don't know why this thing keeps shutting off. It's frustrating. Sorry. We went around with the maps and as a team figured out which ones the valves would need to be exercised and turned off to isolate the main break. And we spent most of the afternoon doing that and strategizing how we were going to fix that the following week. We called in all the one calls and located everyone's service lines in the area and just tried to be very thorough. Unfortunately, someone's service line was running at a weird angle and that's the one that got hit. So we performed 100% of the work at that job. Andy Elin did stop up a couple times just to see if we needed anything, and we borrowed a couple tools from him that we didn't have. And the water the water main break took about 3/4 of a day, and then the service line we got ready to go and finished that the next morning. And I think everybody did a great job. We had a safe work site, and once the ground settles there a little bit, we'll get the concrete in, and we'll have saved a lot of money and not hiring anybody to do that. We got some good experience under our belt. Did you want me to talk about anything other than 9th Avenue, Mayor?
What do you got?
We are going to be meeting with FEMA tomorrow at 2:00 to go over some projects that we might be closing in on. I've been working with Leon and also the DOT to try to figure out how many truckloads the DOT hauled during the derecho. I mean, they were pivotal at that time. And I'm just going to leave. I don't know why the camera keeps turning off, but we still have audio. So FEMA's kind of questioning how many loads we had of debris. And every time we get a different PDMG, who's the project manager, they kind of have their own set of questions, and they know how big the pile was down at the, we had different staging sites. We had root balls out at the well field. We had, there was a staging site behind the school, the high school. There was a staging site by where the cob piles used to be, then the regular compost site. And then there were other little ones around as people cleared up. If they didn't have a pickup or whatever, they just pile it someplace and then we would go around and get it. But FEMA's trying to get to quantify how much the DOT played in that, because they were they helped us out quite a bit, but they were also running really heavy trucks on streets that weren't prepared for that. They weren't designed for that kind of load. So I turned some of those in on as FEMA projects, and also the 10th Avenue culvert that goes to the backside of the high school, because that was where one of the staging sites was. And our culvert there sustained some damage from those heavy loads. I've met with 2 different filter companies. I think we've went over that. I'm starting to get some feedback from Jack, the filter guy. We're trying to coordinate our schedules so he can go over a few things with me. There's another company as well that we're waiting on for some information. Excuse me. I reached out to Heidi Cool with Northland Securities to see where we're at with the financial stuff as far as the water report goes, because that was a big factor. And she has not gotten back to me. I circled back with Veenstra and Kim and asked them where we're at with the water study. They sent me a draft, but they're still waiting on the financials from Heidi as well. I don't know if she's on vacation or what, but normally she responds right away. But Veenstra and Kim has indicated that was the holdup, the last council meeting that we had, and I think maybe the one before that. So I'm just, I don't know if we can give them a hard deadline to have that thing done. I met with another engineering firm yesterday who specializes in water and wastewater, just so we can have different people involved when we do an RFP for the comprehensive projects. So the original water study that V&K came out with had a lot of different options, and we wouldn't have went with all the options, but all of the options together was like $18 million. But that was like, do you want to drill 2 shallow wells, a medium well, a really deep well? All of those were included in our reverse osmosis systems for all those corresponding different well depths, like a Cerulean or a Jordan Aquifer well. So the deeper you go, the more expensive it is to drill the well, and the more expensive the treatment is. So I had them knock those off. And right now our working number is $5 million. So I'm trying to stay in that ballpark. So if we could do like 5 million in 5 years. The engineering firm I talked to yesterday said that with some of the USDA grants and infrastructure dollars that are available, we might want to try going a little bit farther with it, because we might, the bigger our project, we might get more funding. So that conversation just happened yesterday. So there's a lot of things to go over. So once V&K gets the water study completed and back to us, then we can start applying for the grants, as everyone knows. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Is there a season for the grants? Is there a deadline and then you have to wait another year, or?
That is unknown to me. I don't know if there's a grant cycle for that.
We've been waiting on the water study for so dang long. Could all be new grants compared to what we looked at.
They are, I think they are. The woman that I met, so there was 3 people from an engineering firm that came in yesterday to talk about what we're looking at. And one of the individuals was working for V&K when it started. And she said she started the water study in 2019. And then she went to work for this company she works for now.
Other questions?
Is LL Pelling gonna do chip sealing this year on roads?
We're still trying to coordinate with them. When that's going to be, what that's going to be. We're having a road use budget issue right now that we're trying to work through. And with the loss in population, our road use tax revenues go down because that's per capita. So I sure hope so that we're able to do some, but it may be in towards the fall. I can let you guys know once I know more about that. And I'll come look at your tree too. I didn't answer you really very well earlier.
No, it's minor.
I wrote it down.
It's minor. I'll just borrow one of his.
The Dollar General store is well underway. We're going to lose a few trees over on the west end, the west entrance, unfortunately, because of the way that they're really good sized trees. And I've been working with the engineer trying to figure out if they can do something a little different with, because that parking area and driveway is exclusively for their loading and unloading zone of semis. But Dollar General did purchase the whole property. I went and looked to see if we had an easement, and we do have an easement, but it's written so that that area isn't encapsulated in the easement. It says west instead of east, and so the easement doesn't really apply to that area. I can explain more on that later. But the positive note is they have started the store. The building itself is on site. The most of the earth moving will be completed this week, and then construction will start very soon. But they will save as many trees as they can on the west entrance. But it's a tight building site, so they're going to do the best they can. I did talk to the nursery to see if we could move any trees. Since they're so large, we'd have to get a really big tree spade. And the amount of water that a tree that size would take would be a lot, because some of those are 6 and 8 inch caliper. And we know for every inch we need 5 to 10 gallons a week. So could be a substantial cost for water or just inconvenience. I don't know. I didn't really pursue it because I had one day to try to figure it out. So I tried, and we're just going to lose some, unfortunately.
Do we know how many we're gonna lose?
I don't know that. There are some stakes out there, but they're going to try working around them. Yeah, it was pretty sad about it, but the easement didn't protect them.
Other questions? I didn't get any phone calls on that, but I got phone calls about all the depot trees disappearing. And I said, it's private property.
Private property, that's right.
They would heavily do
Can't have a
snow.
rehab with,
They were really split up.
Needed some, if they had waited a month and done it, nobody would have complained, but they were all flowering right now.
Yeah.
And that's what they all saw. I said, well, if you want the depot saved, folks, we gotta make some sawdust before we.
I answered several people and I just said, you can't rehab a building with stuff in the way. It's impossible. And I said,
Well,
and that's gonna be, that side is how you're gonna access the building. So that whole
Right.
view is gonna.
It's like a
completely-
grand entrance circle
the whole
drive,
view is
horseshoe
gonna
drive.
Completely change. So forget what you, I just said, forget what you see. In 3 years, it'll be much different. So it's gonna change. Just when the school comes down next to me, it's gonna be a change. She's gonna have to deal with it.
Especially when Park and Rec Board puts a morning building next to it.
Oh, the privacy fence, and I don't care.
Anything else for Steve?
Oh, someone did ask me about sand and street cleaning.
On Main Street.
Yeah, well, all over. I had
I
All
talked,
been cleaned once.
they've all been cleaned once, and Al told me the day after he cleaned Main Street, there were a lot of business folks sweeping the sand from the sidewalk back out into the street, so it kind of gonna need to be hit a couple
There's
times.
a place on 19th Street that there was a couple spots.
And then you have to remind, it's a street cleaner. This is not a vacuum that's
That's what I
gonna
told them.
suck everything off of.
I used your very words. I said,
It's a steel brush.
right.
But what I did notice was, yeah, down on Main Street, after we had run a street cleaner, then either they all had timed it and took their leaf blowers and blew everything off the sidewalks back into the street. And we had talked with Al, because saw that, but also because we're gonna paint in June
In June.
before the 4th of July. I said, well, kept reminding him, you've got to get those taken care of before we slap new paint.
And that's what we had the kids do for the citywide cleanup that the school does, is clean in front of the museum and get all the sand off the road. Because that's a constant problem.
Well, that didn't quite go as well as expected. There was one full group that never showed up for school. One advisor sat around and twiddled their thumbs because they had no kids to go do their projects they had assigned. So yeah, he's aware, Al's aware. I just had another conversation with Al this afternoon about it, and I know they've been out once, so they'll be out again.
Thank you.
Anything else? Update on recent meetings. I have landfill meeting tomorrow night. we have, as I remind you on the back of this thing, that you have correspondence, you have a public hearing and a budget meeting for Wednesday, May 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in council chambers. Then on Thursday, I have EasyCog meeting, and then Thursday night, I have event development meeting. So I will be busy running the meetings next week. And as I said, Iowa County has offered a half-time position to a lady from Williamsburg, so hopefully we can get that combined job together. And as long as I'm flipping to that other page of correspondence, unless you have questions for me. Garrett, would you be able to meet after that meeting on the 25th for about 15, 20 minutes with the fire chief and myself?
Should be able to.
We have, I just won't even get a discussion we have to have.
Okay.
And I need to send you, and as long as I've got a fireman that's on city council and fire chief, we have some things we have to discuss to send it back to the fire department. So shouldn't take us more than 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
Now, unless I call Jason and he can't meet on that night. God only knows, all of a sudden T-ball, softball, whatever ball showed up, and there's more conflicts than I can imagine. Any questions for my report? Old business? None. Resident comments? None. I will give you 5-minute recess to use the restroom, and then we will go to closed session, and the cameras will be off. So you can shut the cameras off now because we're going into a 5-minute recess to go to closed session.
Okay.